Thank you for tuning in. My name is Kjaerum, working as a senior analyst in the Danish Refugee Council. We have for the past 3 years explored how we could use predictive analytics to inform our work in the humanitarian sector, initially in close collaboration with IBM. And what we've developed so far are 2 models related to predicting forced displacement trends in the future. One model called the foresight model, which can predict forced displacement 1 to 3 years into the future, currently covering 26 countries around the globe. The other model, called the Refugee model, aims at predicting how many displaced persons there will be at the subnational level in and around the Liptako-Goma triangle in the Sahel region 3 to 4 months into the future. And both of these models have been developed to be able to provide more accurate forecasts to the humanitarian sector, to inform early action and hopefully support a more efficient and timely response to forced displacement and enhance protection outcome of people of concern. And today I'll share some of the lessons learned from this experience. The first lesson learned is really that it works. We can see that in both these models we can provide quite accurate forecasts of how future displacement trends will evolve. In our foresight model, we can see that around 50% of our forecasts have are less than 10% of the actual displacement happening. And our Refugee model is actually even more accurate. But are these results good or bad? Of course, also depends a little bit on what is the alternative. How accurate is the current way of forecasting for strategic planning in the humanitarian sector? And we've analyzed that by comparing our results from the foresight model to the planning figures currently being used in humanitarian response plans, which are the sort of key strategic planning documents in the humanitarian sector developed by the different humanitarian actors in a crisis. And what we can see in that analysis is that actually our forecast from the foresight model is more accurate in 13 out of the 17 countries where we can compare. So we really think that these models can add some value to the strategic planning in our sector. The second point is that these models are not going to replace humans or qualitative analysis. They still come with a number of limitations. Because they build on historical data and trends, they have a hard time predicting sort of certain unprecedented or so-called black swan events. So for example, we can see in the foresight model that when there's a higher change in displacement, the inaccuracy of our forecast also goes up. And we can also see that it has this conservative bias. So in 63% of our forecast, they underestimate how many people that will be displaced in the coming year. So the way we envision using these models is really in combination with qualitative analysis and expert opinions and so on. And it's really when we can combine the two, the model with the qualitative expertise, that we can get some very interesting results, and we can use that to, for example, develop scenario-based forecasts. The third point is that the data is out there. Both of our models are built around open source data, mainly drawing on the World Bank, different UN agencies and NGOs and academic institutions that are collecting this information. And yes, there are data gaps when we go to the subnational level. But even with these data gaps, we're still able to provide quite accurate forecasts of the developments. And this also means that to develop these models, it doesn't necessarily take a lot of efforts and resources. You don't have to set up vast data collection initiatives or develop difficult web scraping tools to get the data you need to develop forecasts. It is already out there. It's more about putting it to use. So the last point is really then when it's actually not so difficult to develop the models, the real challenge is really to apply them. And what we've learned there is that it's really important to have a very good understanding of your use case. Who's going to use it, for what purpose, and to inform which processes. And what is the challenge you are trying to solve. Secondly, it's also very important to think about how we can make these models more user-friendly and ensure that you have time and resources to really capacity build the end users of these models. We have used the models so far in our country operations and also used them to support UN agencies with forecast for strategic planning and for funding decision making. And we invite other actors to use these tools as well, so do feel free to reach out in case you're interested in collaboration, and we are open to discussing further. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a good conference. Thank you.